All right, I have to say this. Are you ready for this Leaders Who Care conversation? Ready.
I was born ready, Mark.
Ready. I love it.
Absolutely ready.
Well, welcome, you and your brilliant smile. Welcome to the Leaders Who Care series. I'm excited about what you're going to be able to bring the audience in knowledge, in passion, and just positive energy. So, place to start is if you could briefly introduce yourself, not the business stuff yet, but where you're from originally, where you are now, maybe about your family. Maybe there's something you've never told anybody in the world. You want to reveal it now. We could do that too. But just a little bit about yourself would be great.
Great to be here, Mark. I grew up in rural India, the place where I was born and grew up. Probably even in India, when I tell people don't recognize, it's a small village. I come from very humble beginnings. My father, he didn't even finish high school, but my parents had very high moral values and they imbibed us those values into us. I feel very fortunate to be born into that family, to be raised with those values. Growing up in a culture where everyone knows everyone, it helped me build relationships in career during my career with employees and customers. And when I was a kid, this is the one I never told anyone since you asked. I
Yeah.
grew up, I spent a few years in an ashram. The guru who founded the ashram, he met Mahatma Gandhi.
Oh.
When when Gandhi came, Gandhi came to my area. This is a state called Andhra Pradesh in the South India. To that part of India, he came in the 1930s. And the guru, he went to see him, and he was heavily influenced by Mahatma Gandhi. And he quit school. He went to jail as
No.
part of the India's independence movement against the British.
Mhm.
And so I spent, when I was 7, my father decided, okay, this kid will do well learning in this a few years, spending the time in this ashram. So I spent a few years during my formative years. So it helped me learn discipline in life. It was close to the nature. We were doing things. We get up at 5 a.m., believe it or not, some days when you're 7 year old. But that's the discipline I still value even today. As a kid, that was the upbringing I had.
What a brilliant gift that your parents gave you with that. Do you have siblings?
We are 6 siblings.
Well.
I'm the middle. I have 2 older brothers,
Mhm.
and then 3 younger siblings, 2 sisters, younger sisters, and 1 younger brother.
Wow. So did they get the same benefit that you just talked about?
My brothers, 3 of us, we got, and then of course, girls were in those days, and even now, they're not sent to be in an ashram like that, so they didn't. But we were fortunate, regardless of whether we went and spent the time in the ashram or not, Mark. As I said, my parents and my family had very high moral values and very spiritual and religious. And then my aunt used to tell these stories from these epics, Indian epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata. It's like she had photographic memory. She
Oh.
would tell. She had only basic elementary school education, but she read the books and she would tell as if the story is happening in front of you. She had photographic memory. She would uh, tell all those things. And one of the things that I still remember is you never lie. you never lie. And she would tell all these stories about, these moral values, why you need to be upright, why you need to be honest. And she would bring all these stories. That's the kind of upbringing we had. So we all feel very fortunate to have that kind of extended family, my aunt, my parents, and other uncles and aunts.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's brilliant. You know, when people say I'm rich, it doesn't just mean money. It means way more than that. And you know, just just the inner knowledge that they have, for lack of a better way of saying it, that they shared is such a big core of being able to support, support a life and a family. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's spectacular. And moving from being a kid, then looking at your journey a little bit, what intrigued you to take, for example, you started at the civil engineering at the highly recognized, IIT in India.
Mhm.
Talk about a change of culture. Then you went to Oklahoma State for computer science, and then Columbia, which is still a change of culture from Oklahoma to Columbia. So how did that happen?
I know it's one of the things when you come from very humble beginnings, Mark, is that when you don't have much, by the way, your point is excellent. It's we didn't have much, but it never felt that way growing up.
Right.
But growing up from growing in very humble beginnings and a culture like that, where you don't have much, you develop flexibility to adapt to the circumstances and develop the gratitude to what you have.
Mm-hmm.
So after I completed my studies at IIT, I worked for a short time as a civil engineer in India. At the time, this was prior to by mid 90s, India started on an economic liberalization, but this was prior to that. So every industry and every government, every job is you're working for the government. Pretty much everyone worked for the government. And the system, when you look back, it's there's no meritocracy. Everyone who joined on the same day get promoted on the same day. Nothing. It sounds strange, but that's how it was. And the system was corrupt. And it didn't jive with the values I grew up. I saw the corruption. It's like, okay, no, I'm not going to be here.
Right.
And then I decided to leave India and come to the US. And what happened was Oklahoma State gave me research assistantship. And so I went there. So it was a natural, again, flexibility, having that, hey, when you have that humble backgrounds, nothing is beneath you, or you're flexible, you adjust to the new circumstances, new culture, environments. That's one of the things you grew up and you learn. And so I went there. After my computer science master's, I was working on Wall Street, and I thought my thought processes at the time, Mark, was, well, I had a lot of technical background. I had computer science masters and civil engineering degrees, and I decided I wanted to get a business side, and decided to get my MBA from Columbia, and I loved my learning experience there. So that's throughout my later career, that's what became a theme. Where I balance the technology, I balance the people side and the business side very effectively because of that upbringing and because of the education I got.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And you know what? With everything going on in AI and everything right now, and talent, one of the things we're finding is that we don't call them soft skills anymore. We call them power skills. Those
Yeah.
are going to be the most important, as AI and everything takes over a lot of different ways and manners and positive stuff, hopefully for the most part. So you're right on the money, and the foundation that, again, your parents and your aunt gave you add to that even more so, those skill sets. We founded our firm, Fifth Element, was founded on the basis that leaders and their organizations can do way better when you're doing good. I noticed looking at your background, you understood this in a very interesting way, and it relates to the tech and the business and the people coming together. You had consistent engagement around performance, customer experience, and just resolving issues. How did that evolve for you? How did that evolve for you, and you evolve at the same time that that was happening? Can you share about that?
Absolutely, Mark. That's one of the things. As I progressed in my career, I learned that it's there is a very positive correlation between employee engagement and the business results. When early in my career, I was just focused on getting the things done, results and results and results. But then as I progressed into senior leadership levels, it became clearer. Again, naturally, my upbringing made me more interested in people.
Right.
And even when I had 2,000 people in my organization at Intel, ADP, or other places, I focused in establishing relationships. In my view, Mark, one of the important things is we get this criticism from a lot of the employees. Say, hey, I'm just a number. I don't like that at all. Meaning, I need to know the people in my organization and the people that I'm working with regularly. And as an example, when I was at ADP, I knew over 1,000 people personally. Similarly, when I was at Autodesk, it's it made me connect with people. When it's everyone had their own hopes, their wishes,
Right.
their worldviews are different. They grew up in different cultures, different socio-economic backgrounds. When you understand, it helps you as a leader to get the views. And also, when you're making the decisions, you're much more effective. Let me give you a couple of examples, Mark. One was when I came to Autodesk, our customer satisfaction. I had a large customer-facing organization in my operations org, and my team had the highest engagement score, 87%, to the point earlier you were making, which is compare that to the US average of about 60-ish.
Yeah.
And when I joined Autodesk, my team had the low 80s, which is good customer satisfaction scores, but we put consistent effort increasing the employee engagement, and we saw both the employee engagement went up as well as the customer engagement, which is measured by customer satisfaction. We reached 90%, believe it or not. This is like the top 1% or maybe even less. And we maintained that for 2.5 years. And when I left the company, April of 2022, we hit 95%. This is probably the top 0.1%. So there is a correlation to the employee engagement score being the highest, customer satisfaction being the highest. And because I'm a data-driven guy, let me translate that, what that means. McKinsey or some other management consulting company came up with a formula that 20% increase in the customer experience or customer satisfaction leads to 15% increase in the revenues. So I calculated, oh, wow, that increase to the 90% means we contributed $235 million, which is huge, right?
Yep.
So there is very tangible bottom line and top line improvement for companies. So this is what, to your point, doing good to the people has positive implications to the business and society. And people, everyone, you can read some of the comments recently. Someone at ADP She wrote it on my LinkedIn, and I was surprised. Years now, it's 6 years or 5 years since I left the ADP. Someone who was managing the contact center, she had my picture in her cube. It's like, oh,
Big picture on the wall of Reddy. How cool.
yeah, right. This is
Well,
this is many years after.
both Jack Ma and Warren Buffett have talked about that you don't start with the shareholders, you start with the employees. And if the employees are engaged and proud and they know that you care, that'll end up going to the customers, which then ends up going to the results and the shareholders. So, which is kind of what you're talking about. And it's not necessarily that hard to care about your employees and your customers. It's quite amazing, and congrats on that, because I think very often, I remember years ago there weren't even operational people on an executive committee in a company. They just had the top executives on the top floor telling everybody what to do, and they didn't even know what their people were doing or what they were about. And I think, the way you talk about caring about the employees gets the heart and soul of people feeling that they belong, and belonging is the thing that fills people's hearts and souls more than anything, and they'll be proud of the company and so on. I wanted to ask, they say the fourth industrial revolution has been about technology, now AI for sure, but the fifth is about humanity, as we're talking about. So a good segue here. We're, as a firm, very involved in impact and talent, and talent and impact comes together. After your experiences that you talked about, ADP, Autodesk, Intel, talk about your transition and your why to become a partner of Seventrain Ventures. AI is growing fast. A lot of discussions on how it's going to hurt so many things, and it's it's going to impact jobs and so on. So, can you talk about your transition, and what are your insights on how it can be positive and still help sectors for both economic and social benefit?
Yeah, absolutely. So my journey from the big companies, I accomplished a lot in being part of the big corporate environments, turning around the two struggling businesses of ADP, transforming my global ops to be the best in class at Autodesk, or delivering $300 million digital transformation, and so on. Then the Seventrain Ventures opportunity came along. It was to streamline a services venture. We signed agreements with 20 different partners, and I built over 600 use cases for AI automation and delivered millions of cost savings to our clients. So this gave me an opportunity to learn from a scrappy entrepreneurial environment, Mark. While doing that, I brought my 25 plus years of experience to write the AI Unleashed book, which is going to be released in early summer. AI is, there are a lot of apprehensions. There is a lot of hype happening. But the way I view AI is it's a positive multiplier force. It's going to change every facet of life and business and functions as we know it. I'm a strong believer. Of course, it can be used for negative purposes too.
Just like anything.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, just like anything, you're going to have bad actors, but it doesn't make it bad.
Right, exactly. It is neutral. How it is used is in the hands of the actors, as you rightfully said, Mark. 20 years from now, we all are going to look back and then say, wow, that's seismic. It changed everything, like the industrial revolution that happened a few hundred years ago.
Right.
I'll give you a small example. To my earlier point, I had a huge, the largest customer-facing organization at Autodesk. The things we were doing, the knowledge base is an example. It was scattered everywhere. The specialists in the customer client services organization in my group, it took 6 months to a year to become productive, because knowledge base is scattered everywhere across 20 different systems. It may not be up to date. AI can change that because AI is so good with structured data, unstructured data, pulling the information, and we produce worldwide, Mark, we produce 2.5 quintillion bytes of data.
Yeah.
What that means is to non-tech, non-engineer types is if it's put into a 1-inch book, that data means you can wrap those 1-inch books all around the earth 1,585 times. That much data we produce, humanly impossible, right? And a fraction of that data we produce, every company produces humongous amounts of data. Keeping up to date with that data takes a lot of time and effort, and bringing people to become very productive soon, that's not going to happen. But AI can change that because in knowledge base, you can pull the relevant information, it can update, and I can see a customer service person can become very effective in 3 months instead of 1 year because of AI. Of course, it's going to disrupt, AI is going to disrupt the industries, it's going to disrupt the functions, but it makes us extremely productive. And it's just one example I gave you. I can give you so many examples from content creation, from
Sure.
even other areas like finance or marketing and sales. It can give so much insights so you can become more effective in decision making. You can target your messages more effectively. In one of the things that we, before AI, Mark, one big challenge is when you standardize, customization, personalization takes a hit. But this is one beauty with the AI is you can accomplish both. You can customize as well as gain efficiencies. That's not possible before AI. You standardize, everyone is treated the same way.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. And I was just at an impact forum on healthcare and mental health. And if there's one sector that should benefit incredibly is that arena. And it's a skill set that we found that leaders who care about their people, they care about their well-being, their financial well-being, their physical well-being, and their mental well-being. That's all tied together. To your point earlier on about knowing the person. I think what AI can really impact there is the knowledge that's available to support their mental and physical well-being, the knowledge that's available from around the world to have different, ideas and knowledge and education on how to support their financial well-being, the knowledge of the diversity of ideas and perspectives that'll come out that no human can read all of this stuff, not to mention the actual medical stuff that doctors will know to cure things. So to your point, it is going to be spectacular. And it will, just like any revolution or change, a lot of times it loses some jobs, but it creates a lot of other jobs as well, other things to do. And in this case, a lot of the power / soft skills that leaders need to have to make it happen. I do want to ask you one couple quick questions on that. There's a lot of conflict going on in the world right now. And we talked a little bit about this program, Nonflict, that we're recommending to all our clients. It seems like, rather than looking at ways to resolve conflict as just two different ideas, there seems to be a lot of I'm right, you're wrong type of thing. What's your experiences in resolving conflicts when you have especially such big teams of people?
It's when I look back, my experience, Mark, I manage teams in 13 different countries, and I learned 6 different languages. I value cultural and experience diversity.
Mm-hmm.
It's important the same aspect to the point that we were talking earlier, Mark, you can see people coming with different viewpoints as a conflict, or it is enriching
Right.
the diversity of the opinion so we are not leaving holes in our decision-making process, right? That's as a leader, but when you're looking at, I'll give you an example. When many years ago at Intel, we had lots of challenges with our products. And the CEO, Paul, at the time, and the head of the quality, they said, Reddy, I was just coming from China, Shanghai, and they said, Reddy, this is, we would like you to lead this effort. This is a cross company, cross-site effort. It's a corporate initiative. We're putting 5% of all of the employees' bonus towards this goal. So I said, okay, absolutely. And I formed a team that included anywhere from Malaysia to Israel to Japan and of course US multiple sites. It's and then the team could be as diverse as you can imagine. We had manufacturing people, product engineers, sales, marketing, everybody. And we would meet once a week, and everyone was not aligned. But what we did was, what is the overarching theme? And believe it or not, having managed the 13 people and teams in 13 different countries, my conclusion is 90+% of the people have good intentions, regardless of what culture and backgrounds they are. They
Yep.
have good intentions. If we start with that theme and then say, people have good intentions, let's align on one theme. This is where our theme was. We want to go from, we had close to 200 huge issues that were happening every year, and we need to cut them down to that becomes a non-issue. That was our overarching theme, and we assembled teams within the task force and then say, hey, this is the focus for this, and we had one goal. And for 3 years in a row, we beat the goal by 25%. So we actually got, instead of 5%, we got 6.25% bonus. Everybody got. And in 3 years, basically, it was all gone, and our CSAT went from 60% to 86%.
So the moral of that story is, if you look at conflict as different ideas rather than I hate you or you're
Yeah.
right and I'm right, and you have, how do we get to the best case scenario to move forward together? Financial well-being and physical and mental well-being are all helped at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. So in that case, financially, we got more bonds than
That's what I mean, right?
we have, right? And by the way, one point I want to make, Mark, is AI is now, instead of you waiting for your customers to tell how they felt about their interaction resolving an issue, you can get the sentiment analysis very right at the moment to tell your customer facing team, hey, maybe there's a better way to resolve it. And the customer is, your engagement was not appropriate. It's not just the customer side. To earlier point, we were discussing also the employee engagement.
Sure.
If, we have seen during the COVID, everyone was dealing with uncertainty. We had people losing in their family members, and it's very unfortunate, but it was like the most stressful time we had seen at a massive scale, at the global scale. And it's we need to keep that human element and understanding the sentiment, especially when we are located in different locations. AI is going to help.
Yeah, well said. And like anything that's ever come along, there's always, as I mentioned, bad actors, people that would take advantage. But if we wouldn't have let cars be invented because they were killing some people on the streets back then and they didn't know what to do with them, wouldn't have let machinery I mean, you just got to manage it, but we always have to keep the human element in mind, because all this stuff is to support humanity, not replace
Right.
humanity type of thing. So with that
Exactly.
said, I have one last question for you here, because in LA we say you got to leave them wanting more so you can do a sequel. That's typical
Uh-huh.
LA. So with everything that's happened, the pandemic, we're already in 2024. It seems like life's gone by super fast. What are you most grateful for, and what are you most hopeful for?
I, as I was mentioning, Mark, I come from very humble beginnings. I the gratitude I have is just being born as a human being. The probability, I'm not going to give the numbers but it's extremely, extremely small. That itself is a fantastic thing.
Right.
And then now, having lived a life, I could be tending to, cows in my village, for all you know. And I went to best institutes in the world, and I worked for best companies in the world. There's nothing I can ask. I'm a spiritual person, and I think the universe has been very kind to me. So I feel very lucky. And my mom, she's 80 years old. She had stroke twice during COVID and after, but she's the most positive person. I talk to her every single day. These are the blessings.
They are.
These are blessings. And then the kids and my spouse, it's just these are the human values and the human connections. Don't forget that. It's regardless of your wealth and position, the people in your life, they're very important. Value them and make sure you talk to them every day.
Super well said. And what are you most hopeful for?
I'm hopeful that the world, with all the political conflicts and all the challenges from the environment and other challenges we are seeing, I'm hopeful that the better future, we will see better future in coming decades. If you look at the history, which I'm a big buff of history, Mark, humanity went through challenges, but we always come through the pain, we come better on the other side. And I'm hopeful AI is one of the instruments in making that happen. We
Mhm.
all will come better because what AI is going to make it possible. And political conflicts, of course, we're going through very stressful times in Israel and Ukraine and other places. But I'm very hopeful better things will come because of AI, because of humanity, because of better senses prevailing in the world.
Well, I'm grateful that you are a leader who cares. I'm happy about that and
Thank you.
grateful. And I'm also hopeful because you are a leader who cares and you see what can be done. And so thank you for all you do. Thank you for sharing all that, and especially about your family and your upbringing and everything, because it's priceless. It's priceless. So really appreciate you and appreciate you being on the series. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.